Everyone, today we're going to be playing some Modern. Basically, just going to take a break from Standard until M15 comes out. Um, it's kind of not super relevant, and it is the PTQ season, and I am PTQing this weekend, but not with this deck, but I'll get into that later. So, today we're playing a Prismatic Omen Scapeshift deck, and a while ago I wrote an article about three Modern decks. One was Jund, one was very similar to this deck, and then the other one was a Kiki control deck, and I played Black Green in a PTQ and wrote about that already, and that deck was pretty good. But I just want to try other stuff. I've been playing this on Magic Online, and I'm 18-6 right now, which is not bad. 75%, and I think the things that I have lost to are fixable. It was like some really fast matchups like Storm and Burn and Zoo. And yeah, like I said, I think those problems are solvable. It just depends on like what types of things I want to be good against. So right now it's kind of tricky, and this is like my second version of the deck. So hopefully I'll get this to a point where I'll like it against pretty much everything. So the first thing to note is that this is very much a Prismatic Omen deck and not a Scapeshift deck. It just so happens that Scapeshift is quite good in the deck also, but this deck basically aims to get Prismatic Omen and Valakut into play, and you just kind of find those with like various cantrips. And then once you have that, you can just start lightning bolting stuff with Valakut and like playing multiple lands per turn with the various ramp spells. And then you should be able to either like mow down their team or kill them. And then if you have 6 lands, Prismatic Omen, and Scapeshift, you can just get a bunch of Valakuts and kill them. So that's pretty cool too. I like this just because it's not all in on just the card Scapeshift, and when you are, you're very vulnerable to stuff like, Sowing Salt on a Random Mountain, even Mind Sensor. Fulminator Mage is like kind of annoying for both versions, but I think slightly less so than this one. And stuff like Slaughter Games too. Those can really like mess up your Scapeshifts. So I do like this one just because it has more of a backup plan, and I think the backup plan is like actually pretty reasonable, and it's just like a threat on its own. So like you can play against decks like Jund and they'll like Thoughtseize or Scapeshift or whatever, and you just won't find a threat for a very long time. So this deck attacks them from different angles and makes it so they have to like keep in their abrupt decays against your Scapeshift deck and stuff like that. So I like this deck a lot. A lot of velocity, a lot of stuff that draws you cards and just like looks at a bunch of cards. So you see a lot of cards per game very often, and the older versions of this deck that, granted didn't have access to Shocklands because Ravnica wasn't legal back in Old Extended. You had Wargate to fetch both Valakut and Prismatic Omen, but since we do have the Shocklands, I'm just playing Scapeshift like naturally, and just Scapeshift and 7 lands is 18 damage, assuming you haven't drawn a bunch of mountains. So this deck could certainly play Wargate as a tutor, but I think like the deck never needed it. Like Jason Ford won a Grand Prix with just a blue-green version of this deck. So I don't know. Like if people are fighting you super hard one way or the other, like either they have a bunch of disenchants for your omens or a bunch of land destruction for your Valakuts, then maybe you want something like Wargate to have those things more often. But I think right now it's not that big of a deal, and you can just run like I have like my main deck is all blue green cards. I'm not really playing any red cards. But you can just run basically straight blue-green with a bunch of search, a bunch of like Serum Visions and stuff like Halimar Depths and Oracle Moldiah in combination with Shufflers, and you should be able to find what you need. So the game plan against the super fast decks is to kill them on turn 4 with Omen and Scapeshift, or just Scapeshift, and the plan against anything else is to just kind of like whittle them down with Omen and Valakut. And in order to buy some time, we have some rapid hybridizations, which I think are really good. And these are one of the big changes from the initial list that I threw out there, where you have rapid to slow down Splinter Twin or like kill a Tarmogoyf and disrupt like a Birthing Pod deck. And the first version I had Lightning Bolts in combination with Relic of Progenitus to kill Tarmogoyf, but since Relic is not that great of a main deck card right now, once I found out about Rapid. Like Glenn Jones was working on a blue-white deck that had some Rapid hybridizations in it, and I like these a lot. And especially in combination with something like Repeal, where you can basically just like kill their guy and kill a token. Other than that, I removed the coursers for oracles from the first version. Courser was actually just not that good. I thought it was going to be really good, but like even aside from the fact that it was tough to cast, it just didn't do enough. Whereas Oracle allows you to have like really explosive draws and is easier to cast with just a single green in its mana cost. So I don't know, kind of disappointed because I thought Courser was going to be pretty good, but I might return to Courser at some point and give it another shot. But I've been really liking having three oracles. I also added Serum Visions. Before I just had a bunch of Halimar depths, but I noticed that there was not enough velocity when I didn't have the visions in the deck. And now, hopefully, you'll see, like, I'm going to play in a daily event here in a little bit, and if you have something like Visions with Oracle in play, it's, like, pretty insane. You get to go through a bunch of cards, like I said, and basically just find whatever you want. So, other than that, like 8 ramp spells, 27 land, just because you want to hit a land drop every single turn and you want to be able to hit a bunch of things off Oracle, or even just like playing Oracle when you know it's going to die and your top card is a spell. You just get to play like a land or two depending on if you played it, when you've already played a land or not. But like being able to play this and then just play extra lands from your hand before they kill it is pretty insane. Other than that, we have some remands and cryptic commands that buy us time, and the fourth cryptic is not crazy. Like I could definitely see it being in here. The mana is sort of a consideration, but we have a bunch of fixers for that. But I mean, maybe just like not having the fourth cryptic is wrong, but I wanted to play some cheaper interactions, so I have some repeals that also combo with rapid hybridization, and I recently just added another repeal because I was having a lot of problems with just like, Wild Nacatl, Pyromancer Ascension, just like these cheap early permanents. So it gives you a little more interaction there too. So other than that, 27 lands, like I said, we have 8 mountains, which might be a little on the low side compared to normal Scapeshift decks that usually have like 10, but so far I haven't had an issue with like running out of mountains to Scapeshift for. Like sometimes when you just draw a bunch of them, you won't be able to deal them enough damage. But if you ever have 8 lands, it's like pretty impossible to not have enough mountains, just because you can fetch an extra Valakut at that point, and then you should be good. So 8 has been pretty reasonable. Then we have the 4 Valakuts, just because you want to naturally draw them with the Prismatic Omens. Like this is your card right here. Like this is what the deck is about, so you want all of them. I still have a singular Halimar Depths. I ended up cutting one for a forest, just kind of like switching around the mana base a little bit. Like I cut a Misty Rainforest for fourth filter land, which are either the best or worst lands in your deck, depending on how many of them you draw. Like, you can definitely go, like, Valakut into Stomping Ground, into, like, Tribelder, and be, like, not really close to casting Cryptic Command, but if you draw, like, any of these filter lands, it basically just turns on Cryptic immediately, so that's why I want a bunch of these. And then the fetches are super good when you have Omen and Valakut, because it allows you to just like keep it open and have a lightning bolt just on demand whenever you want. So you also get 2 bolts out of this just by playing it and then cracking it, getting another land. So being able to bolt at instant speed is pretty relevant against stuff like Manlands or Pestermite. So I would like another one here, but I was playing some long games against stuff like Jund and Blue White Red, where like I was running out of basics, so I wanted to get the extra forest in there, and the fetch land was like basically the only thing that I could cut. So I still like having some number of Halimar Depths. In an ideal world, I would have 2 of these and a 4th fetch, maybe even a 5th, like a Scalding Tarn. But gotta make some concessions. It's also perfectly reasonable to just go up to 28 land and play that stuff too. So I haven't been like stuck on lands really. I've had to dig for them pretty aggressively with Serum Visions at times, but I think 27 is close to the right number. Maybe 28 is better. I'm not sure. But for the sideboard, I just changed this a little bit, so the numbers might not be right, and you might see me fumbling during sideboarding or whatever. But I know the general gist of like why I want everything. So Urban Evolutions are kind of strange. This might seem like more of a main deck card, but this is a great card at fighting Thoughtseize. So if they like, Thoughtseize or Scapeshift, Abrupt Decay or Omen, maybe have Liliana going. Like Urban Evolution is one of the few cards that can actually get you back in the game. It's like both a draw spell and something that allows you to play additional lands, which is what you want in the deck. So this is a good sideboard card against grindy matchups. And then we have some Swan Songs. I don't have any enchantment destruction right now outside of Repeal and Cryptic Command, and for something like Blood Moon, that's kind of tough, but Swan Song is pretty good at countering Blood Moon, and I really do like with Rapid and Swan Song that I have Repeal to just kill the token. So, I wouldn't mind a third Repeal either, but 2 is what we got right now. So, before, I used to have 2 Swan Song and 2 Counterflux, and the Counterfluxes were okay. It was like kind of tough to cast it sometimes, so I was fine with just playing the cheaper counter spell, something that can snipe an Ascension or a Blood Moon. It seemed pretty important. And then we have some Relics, and these are for Storm and to Shrink Tarmogoyf, and for any weird stuff like Living End. I played against that once, but that match was pretty easy thanks to all the counter spells. But Relic is pretty good at slowing down Tarmogoyf, although I don't have anything to actually like burn the Tarmogoyf and finish it off aside from Valakut, but that might come up a few times. I basically just want something to slow it down, and like after they kind of wreck your hand with their initial like Thoughtseize and stuff, if you have one of these, it's pretty nice to just like replenish your hand after that and try and find some action. And then we have some Combust for Splinter Twin, Restoration Angel, Celestial Colonnade, Vendilion Click. The flyers can be kind of tough because you don't get to like chump them with Tri-Belders and stuff, and Combust is pretty good at stopping Splinter Twin, stopping their combo. And then we have some Anger the Gods for any fast matchup like Zoo or Affinity. I only had 2 of these for a while and some Obstinate Baloths, but like the Baloths were not doing what I wanted them to against Jund. It seems like most people are used to fighting Baloth out of the sideboard of these Scapeshift decks, so they were not, just blindly playing Liliana and ticking it up. So if I was never going to like get them with Baloth, then I just didn't really want it in my deck against them. I would like some life gain somewhere, and maybe I should just have like a couple Wormcoil engines. That's a consideration. But Anger's been pretty good. I haven't played against too many decks that these are good against, but they are definitely out there, and those are kind of the bad matchups. And then for Affinity, we have some Ancient Grudges, and I'll board in one of these against Pod just so they can't go nuts against me, but you don't ever want to draw multiples. So I started with like 3 Grudges and a Corrosion with 2 Angers, and that was like a little too much against Affinity. Like, you can stall them a decent amount, especially if you're on the play, if you have Remand, but you also have like Cryptic, Repeal, Rapid to just like kill whatever's wearing a plating, and then you have like a pretty fast combo kill, and they don't have much disruption, so you can basically play that unmolested. But I definitely want some stuff for Affinity, and like I said, I do bring in one of these in against Pod. So if there is a deck, like maybe some hyper combo Splinter Twin deck that has like the full 4 spell skites, and I know like maybe I'll bring in the full 2 against them, but even then, like, depending on how good the Affinity matchup is, I think it's like pretty good, but like not like 70%. Is probably more like 55 or 60. Then I could see just like going down to one of these, but that's about it. Like I said, been doing pretty well with this deck, and I've liked it so far, and I do think that you can tune it to be like a pretty strong contender in the metagame. I guess one thing I should talk about is why I'm not playing 4 Scapeshift, since I actually have Mountains, but like I said, Omen deck, not a Scapeshift deck, but Scapeshift is still good. It's just like you don't want to draw a bunch of these, so I only have 3. It is not your plan A, it is very much your plan B, so the blue-green list that Jason played at Grand Prix Atlanta in like 2010, 2011, did play 3, and that's because like the format kind of sped up and got a little bit more combo heavy, but like 2 is certainly reasonable. You can play 2 of these and just be fine if you're not if you like actively don't want to combo people. But yeah, like I said, this deck can be good. I do feel like it's kind of in the same realm as like Blue White Tron, which is another deck I like a lot, but just like kind of falls a little bit flat, which is going to be the case with like any kind of like slow-ish combo deck that is relying on Remand to buy them a bunch of time. So Uh, there are certainly going to be points in like the ebb and flow of the metagame where there's a bunch of like Affinity or Storm or like maybe Goryo's Vengeance, Niv Magus Elemental perhaps, where there are just a lot of really fast like combo-esque decks where something like this is not good. But if you expect like a bunch of blue-white or blue-white-red, this deck is pretty good against them. I've been splitting against Jund, which is not surprising. I kind of wanted to do better against that matchup. I thought like I could do better, and maybe I still can. Maybe I just need to tweak the deck a little bit more. But those matchups are always pretty close. Blue White Red is pretty easy. Splinter Twin has been pretty easy, which is kind of surprising. But they're not like as combo heavy as they were anymore. They're more just like kind of nickel and dime you tempo game, maybe with some Tarmogoyfs, and like that deck's pretty easy to beat. One of the decks I lost to is Blue Moon, which just has a bunch of counter spells and a bunch of disruption for your mana sources, and that might be the Nightmare matchup. I'm not sure, but it still like didn't even feel that bad just because they didn't really have a clock. But it was super tough to play through like Blood Moon and counter spells. I guess if that was a big deck, like we could play Crossing Grip or something, and it wouldn't be that bad. But other stuff that we could play are like a Boseiju, and Boseju's not bad. Just as a one of like I said, you go through a bunch of cards and you could probably find it. But also, if you have two Scapeshifts, you can, or just like even a Scapeshift, but you're kind of stuck on lands or whatever, you can Scapeshift for like a Halimar Depths and a Boseiju, and then like your next Scapeshift is live. But for the most part, I haven't had a problem fighting through the counter wars from the blue white red deck. So that's it. As for like what else I'm doing in Modern, I have a PTQ. I'm recording this Friday night, so I have a PTQ tomorrow morning, and I'm playing the Kiki control deck, the blue white red, with the Kiki Jiki Restoration Angel combo in it, and I just want to keep trying new things. And if I was trying to win, I would probably play green black or maybe Willie Edel's green black white deck. That looked pretty good, but I want to get these decks as good as possible, and it's just fun playing with new decks. So I've basically been sticking to this online, but if there's like a third PTQ that I get to play in, I could very easily see myself playing this depending on how I feel it's shaping up. But that's about it. So let's play some games.